The Russia-Ukraine war has shown exactly how a country doesn't really need to be a military power and can defend itself with sheer determination, advanced firepower, and clever strategy. Ukraine, the underdogs in this war, have managed to destroy Russia on every front. In this video, we'll take a look at how Ukraine managed to destroy the Russian Navy's prized fleet of warships. Stay tuned as we'll also be looking at recent developments in the war. It's 10 months into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and there doesn't seem to be any outcome. It looks like the war is going to drag on into 2023. The Russian military appears incapable of taking Kyiv or occupying a major portion of the country. Ukrainian forces have enjoyed 3 months of success on the battlefield and could well continue to make progress in regaining territory. One of the biggest successes by the Ukrainian forces is seen by their navy. In October, the Ukrainian Navy saw their biggest win. The Ukrainian Navy has been hunting the Russian Navy frigate Admiral Makarov for months. It finally seems the Ukrainians got a shot at the 409-foot missile-armed vessel in her home port of Sevastopol in Russian-occupied Crimea. The Ukrainian government released dramatic videos apparently depicting a successful nighttime strike on Makarov or her sister ship Admiral Essen by at least one unmanned surface vessel. The speedboat-sized USV, possibly packing hundreds of pounds of explosives, dodged Russian helicopters and small boats and drove directly at the frigate, approaching to within a few feet before the video feed went dead. There aren't any photos or videos circulating online that can confirm whether the frigate suffered any damage. In the best case, her crew blew up the drone boat before the drone boat blew them up. In the worst case, Makarov or Essen suffered the kind of waterline damage that could quickly sink a ship. The daring robotic raid is history repeating itself. Makarov became the flagship of the depleted Russian Black Sea Fleet in April after Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles and shore-based missile crews worked together to sink the previous flagship, the 612-foot cruiser Moskva. Even if Makarov remains afloat, and that's a distinct possibility, the Ukrainians still can count the nighttime strike as a win. There are reports of other Black Sea Fleet ships suffering damage in the raid, and to avoid future USV attacks, the Russians either will have to devote significantly more resources to protecting Sevastopol or pull the Black Sea Fleet's 36 or so surviving vessels from Crimea. The Ukrainian Navy has been shockingly successful, considering it no longer has any big ships. In the early hours of the initial Russian bombardment on February 23, the crew of Hetman Sahaydachny, the Ukrainian Navy's flagship and only large surface combatant, scuttled the frigate at its moorings in Odessa, Ukraine's strategic port on the western Black Sea. Now, it wasn't always Ukraine dominating the Black Sea. For the first 2 months of the war, Russia dominated the Black Sea with its air force and naval superiority. The Russians managed to capture Snake Island, 80 miles south of Odessa, and used the island plus some gas platforms they'd captured from Ukraine as bases for air defenses and surveillance gear. They thus enforced a blockade of Odessa that effectively cut off Ukraine's vital grain exports. Russia could have easily captured Odessa and blockaded the Black Sea coast, thus cutting Ukraine's access to the sea. Russian forces, meanwhile, captured or scattered the rest of the Ukrainian Navy ships, including one landing ship and a clutch of armored patrol boats. When the Ukrainians struck back, they did so with land-based missiles, UAVs, and USVs. From March to April, Ukraine has been on the offensive, first destroying the Russian fleet's landing ship Saratov and the Russian warship Moskva the next month. In a single strike, the Ukrainians deprived the Black Sea Fleet of its main air defense ship with her S-300 long-range surface-to-air missiles. Desperate to preserve their surviving large warships, in particular the two Admiral Grigorovich-class frigates including Makarov, fleet commanders pulled back the bigger ships 80 miles from the Ukrainian coast. That exposed the rest of the Black Sea Fleet, in particular support ships that can't effectively defend themselves, to attack by Ukraine's missiles and drones. Russia's resupply vessels have minimum protection in the western Black Sea, the UK Defense Ministry said. By early May, Ukraine was winning in the Black Sea. Ukrainian missiles managed to strike one of the gas platforms the Russians were using for observation. Ukrainian drones, fighters, and artillery bombarded Snake Island, rendering the treeless rock uninhabitable. The Russian garrison fled the island on May 31. A week later, Ukrainian commandos hoisted a Ukrainian flag. Snake Island's liberation signaled to the Ukrainian merchant marine that the western Black Sea was safe for commerce. Odessa was still under blockade and would remain so until Turkey brokered an end to the port blockage in late July, but ships now could get grain out of Ukraine via canals connecting small river ports near the Romanian border to the western Black Sea. The Russians aren't acting from a position of strength. Unable to replace the Black Sea fleet's losses as long as Turkey controls the Bosphorus Strait, joining the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, Russian commanders have focused on protecting what remains of the fleet. Ships hug the Crimean coast, staying inside the range of land-based aircraft and S-400 surface-to-air missiles. But the Ukrainian drone boats struck the Black Sea fleet well inside that protective umbrella. Between the ballistic and anti-ship missiles and airborne and seaborne drones, the Ukrainian armed forces have plenty of ways to sink Russian ships. The Black Sea fleet isn't safe in the western Black Sea. It isn't safe in Sevastopol. The only place it might be safe is the only place where it's totally irrelevant to the wider war, in ports in Russia proper, tied up pierside and closely guarded around the clock. This is now Ukraine managed to turn the tide, and it clearly has helped them in the war with Russia. That's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed watching this one. Thanks for watching.